I heard the words before I saw her face. A gentle coo, a grandmother's voice. "Aren't you the cutest baby ever? I'm so glad to confirm you are indeed my grandson." And in that instant, the air in the room changed. My mother's voice wasn't just affectionate, it was loaded. There was a strange edge to it, the kind of sentence that doesn't belong in casual conversation, especially not with a newborn. I stepped into the room. "What's that supposed to mean?" She froze. Her smile faltered. My father looked up, confused. My mother tried to wave it off, to change the subject, but I pressed her. Hard. Finally, she sighed, sat me down, and told me the truth. They had taken my infant son's DNA and tested it to see if he was mine. The room started spinning. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. They didn't trust my wife. They thought our son didn't look like me. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. I took my baby from my father's arms and told them to leave my house before I lost what little respect I had left for them. My wife, Sonia, was in the kitchen making lunch. She saw them leave abruptly, but I told her they had a sudden emergency. I couldn't bring myself to tell her, not yet, because this wasn't just about distrust. It wasn't even just about the DNA test. This was the latest chapter in a long, ugly history that began the moment I introduced Sonia to my parents. We met at a restaurant where she worked as a waitress. It took time before she became my girlfriend, but once she did, I knew she was the one. She was kind, driven, funny, and she made me feel like I could be a better man. But when I introduced her to my parents, their smiles were thin, their questions sharp. Afterward, they told me they thought Sonia was using me to achieve her American dream. I told them that was racist. I told them I was offended. Still, when I proposed, I hoped we could bridge the gap. Sonia's family was overjoyed. Mine refused to give us their blessing. We ended up eloping, with only my brother and her closest friends as witnesses. After we married, contact with my parents was minimal. 2 years passed before they made the first move to reconnect, right after the birth of our son. Sonia, ever the peacemaker, welcomed them with open arms. She let them meet the baby just 2 days after we were discharged from the hospital. I thought maybe things were changing. They visited regularly, holding him, smiling, acting like grandparents. But behind those smiles, they were still keeping score, still looking for proof. And then came the words I overheard, the confession, the truth that shattered any illusion of reconciliation. For 2 weeks, I carried that secret. I didn't want to hurt Sonia, not when I knew how hard she'd tried to win them over. I told myself I was protecting her, but really, I think I was trying to protect myself from seeing her pain. Eventually, she noticed they weren't visiting anymore. She asked why, and I told her. The moment the words left my mouth, she broke. She cried, quietly, her shoulders shaking. I could see it in her face, how much it cut her to know that the people she had worked so hard to welcome had doubted her so deeply, had gone behind our backs to humiliate her without even giving her the chance to defend herself. That night, she told me she could no longer allow my parents to be in our child's life. And I agreed, without hesitation. The next time my mother called to ask when she could visit, I told her plainly, she and my father were no longer welcome. She tried to apologize again, but it was the same excuse. They didn't trust my wife. The baby didn't look like me. Then my father called. His voice was full of fury. He called me ungrateful, cruel, said a few choice words about Sonia that made my blood boil. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back, and just like that, the door was closed. You might think this is about revenge. It isn't. It's about boundaries, about respect, about protecting the family I chose to build, rather than clinging to the one I was born into. My parents made their choice when they decided their prejudice mattered more than our relationship. They proved they were willing to cross the line, to violate trust, to insult my wife, and by extension, insult me. There's something else people don't think about. Children absorb everything. They notice the words, the tone, the tension. If my parents could make such a remark to a baby, "I'm glad to confirm you're my grandson," what would they say when he was old enough to understand? What kind of poison would drip into his mind about his mother, about himself? I don't want my son to grow up thinking love is conditional. That family only matters if you pass some arbitrary test, and I don't want my wife to have to earn the approval of people who never intended to give it. When you strip it all away, the truth is simple. I am my son's father. Sonia is his mother. And together, we decide who gets to be part of his life. So here I am, asking the question that's been echoing in my head ever since that day. So, am I the asshole? I'll be honest with you. This story isn't really about a DNA test. It's about trust. And once trust is broken, especially by family, it's not easily repaired. I've heard people say, don't deprive your child of grandparents. But here's the thing. The title grandparent isn't a free pass. It's a role you earn by showing love, respect, and safety. If you can't do that, you're just another adult in a child's life, and maybe not one they need. It's also about racism and how it can hide behind polite smiles until it slips out in a sentence you weren't supposed to hear. The harm isn't always loud. Sometimes it's whispered, but it cuts just as deep. And finally, it's about the courage to stand with your partner, to say, your dignity matters to me. Your safety matters to me. I won't let anyone, family or not, tear you down. So if you were in his shoes, what would you do? Would you let them back in for the sake of keeping the peace? Or would you close the door and protect your family, even if it means living with the fallout? Because sometimes protecting the ones you love means making peace with the fact that not everyone deserves a seat at the table. And the hardest part? Realizing that sometimes that includes your own parents.